What's happening around the world
and what's happening here at home. A very good evening. You're watching Primetime News on TV1, coming to 11 direct from our Newsfirst studios here in Colombo. For the Newsfirst team, I'm Rochelle Tumodere.
And I'm Sandro Ferdinando. Let's take a look at your headlines for tonight.
Sri Lanka thrashed Scotland to win the Women's T20 World Cup qualifiers.
Sri Lanka, ladies and gentlemen, the winners of the ICC Women's T20 World Cup qualifiers.
Sri Lanka Supreme Court ends State Minister Diana Gamage's role as Member of Parliament. Mujibur Rahman likely replacement for Diana. Dayasiri claims a presidential hopeful is eyeing the country's aviation fuel business.
මේ පාර්ලිමේන්තුවේ ඉන්න ව්‍යාපාරික මහත්තයෙකුටත් ගුවන්තොටු වලින් ඉඩමක් ලබා දීලා තියෙනවා කරු කතානායකතුමා. ඒ ව්‍යාපාරික මහත්තයට මේ ගුවන් යානා තෙල් ගෙනල්ලා විකුණන්න. බිස්නස් කර මන්ත්‍රී මහතුරු ඉන්නවනේ මේක ඇතුලේ. ඒකට ආණ්ඩුවේ ජනාධිපති අපේක්ෂක.
Foreign Minister and State Minister highlighting prioritizing tourism attraction over visa fee. Economic stability task nearing an end. Now focus on the next steps, says President.
Chamari Atapattu hit 13 fours and 4 sixes on her way to 102, which helped Sri Lanka to a match-winning total in the final of the ICC Women's Cricket World Cup Qualifier 2024 against Scotland.
The tournament to select contenders for the upcoming T20 Women's Cricket World Cup was hosted in Abu Dhabi, featuring 10 competitive teams. After fierce competition, Sri Lanka and Scotland emerged victorious, securing their spots in the prestigious World Cup cricket tournament. Scotland women's cricket captain Sarah Bryce elected to bowl first after winning the toss in Abu Dhabi. In the final match, Sri Lanka, led by captain Chamari Atapattu's stellar performance, set a formidable score of 169 runs for the loss of 5 wickets in the allocated 20 overs, with Atapattu herself scoring an impressive 102 runs off 63 deliveries. In response, the Scottish women struggled to maintain momentum, managing to accumulate only 101 runs for the loss of 7 wickets. Notably, Udeshika Prabodhani's stellar bowling performance contributed significantly to Sri Lanka's victory as she claimed 3 crucial wickets. With this triumph, Sri Lanka has earned the distinction of competing in Group A alongside formidable opponents like Australia, India, New Zealand and Pakistan in the upcoming T20 Women's World Cup. Scheduled to commence on the 3rd of October, the tournament will be hosted by Bangladesh this year.
I want to see my team in semi-finals, but we take one game one time. So every game is very crucial for us. So we have to play our best cricket and keep it simple. I think I have 2 players, Vishmi Gunaratne and Kavisha Dilhari. I think Kavisha is one of good all-round in Sri Lanka team, very young cricketer, and under 19 captain Vishmi Gunaratne, she's batted really good. So I think these 2 players will be game changers for our team.
Sri Lanka's Minister of Foreign Affairs, President's Counsel Ali Sabri emphasized that both diplomatic and non-diplomatic efforts are undertaken to rescue the Sri Lankans who were duped by human traffickers to work with mercenary forces in Russia.
Disturbing reports have emerged regarding Sri Lankans who served in the country's armed forces and found themselves ensnared in a human trafficking racket. These individuals were lured with promises of privileges only to face a starkly different reality. Sri Lankan servicemen were allegedly recruited under false pretenses. Initially told they would be engaged in support roles within Russian army camps, they later discovered they were being deployed to the frontline battles of Ukraine. The trafficking operation reportedly exploited tourist visas, allowing Sri Lankans to enter Russia without raising suspicion. Today, a Sri Lankan who claims to have served in the Russian mercenary forces came forward during a press conference organized by Parliamentarian Gamini Valeboda.
Major Vijay Bandara kenatama sirumu dewal organize karala.
Major Vijay Bandara orchestrated the entire operation, leading a group of 34 individuals to the location. Initially, upon arrival, one of the mercenaries from Wagner, along with legal representatives, arrived and obtained our signatures. We were told that all 34 are camp help. Approximately 800 individuals from Sri Lanka are over there. When passing through the airport, we are expected to pay 100 rupees per person, so that we can pass without any checks.
Airport
එකේ යනවා නම් චෙක් කරන්න නැතුව මේ counter rolling ඇතුළට දාන්න නම් රූබල් 100ක් දෙන්න ඕනේ.
Foreign Affairs Minister Ali Sabri also commented.
I summoned the Russian ambassador and discussed the matter in length in the presence of the Foreign Secretary. We discussed the involvement of the Russian armed forces and what can be done via them. The scope is limited as this is not something done by the government. We are using diplomatic and non-diplomatic means to rescue them.
The Defence Secretary in a video statement said that action will be taken against those involved in the human trafficking ring.
I make a request to the war veterans not to be caught to such illegal schemes and put their lives at risk. The law will be strictly enforced against the illegal human smugglers, establishments and others involved in these illegal activities.
Chief of Defence Staff General Shavindra Silva in a statement said that mercenary warfare is not a noble pursuit. It is a path fraught with peril and moral ambiguity. He said that those who choose to walk this path risk tarnishing the reputation of our esteemed military. Chief of Defence Staff General Shavindra Silva said that as members of a victorious military who defeated the most ruthless terrorist organisation in the world, we must uphold the honour and integrity of our profession. He also said that veterans must resist the appeal of easy money and fleeting fame, remembering that true valour lies not in the size of one's paycheck, but in the righteousness of one's cause. Moreover, the Navy urges the public to reach out to Navy headquarters at 011 719 2142 or 0117 192 250 if they possess any information about individuals, active duty military personnel or any other person involved in this human trafficking act or aiding such activities.
It was observed that personnel attached to the military are involved in this racket. We have launched an investigation into this. Several traffickers linked to smuggling people to Ukraine have been arrested. One person linked to smuggling people to Russia was also arrested. Numerous people have been killed over there and we are still gathering information about the dead. We received information that a person hailing from Valley Oya was killed over there recently. We are looking into this.
The Supreme Court issued a writ that effectively terminates State Minister Diana Gamage's tenure as Member of Parliament.
The decision comes after a petition filed by Oshila Herath, chairman of the Abhinava Nivahal Peramuna, was taken up.
Herath's appeal challenged the two-thirds majority decision that had been rendered following the hearing of a writ petition related to Diana Gamage's British citizenship in the Court of Appeal.
The Supreme Court's ruling now puts an end to her parliamentary responsibilities.
The application against Diana Gamage was considered in the presence of a three-judge bench comprising Justices Gamini Amarasekara, Kumuduni Vikramasinghe and Janakti Silva. In a unanimous verdict, the Supreme Court has determined that Diana Gamage lacks legal citizenship in Sri Lanka, rendering her ineligible to hold a position as a Member of Parliament. Accordingly, the Supreme Court ordered government officials to take necessary action as per the court order. Justice Janakti Silva said that during the trial, it was established that Diana Gamage had entered Sri Lanka using a British passport. The justice added that despite the proceedings, she failed to provide evidence of her Sri Lankan citizenship before the court. The court invoked Article 89 of the Constitution, which prohibits individuals deprived of Sri Lankan citizenship from serving in the country's parliament. Based on this constitutional provision, the Supreme Court concluded that Diana Gamage's continued presence as an MP would be unconstitutional. Accordingly, the Supreme Court issued a writ explicitly stating that Diana Gamage is not qualified to hold a seat in the parliament. Lawyer Hafeel Fariz represented the petitioner Oshila Lakmal Herath, while President's Counsel Shavindra Fernando appeared on behalf of Diana Gamage. Additionally, President's Counsel Farman Qasim represented the Samagi Jana Balawege in the proceedings.
The government and the opposition has maintained silence for 3 to 4 years, failing to address my numerous appeals. I urged Anura Kumara Disanayake and Sajid Premadasa, representatives of the government, ministers in parliament, to take action. Yet my pleas fell on deaf ears. Despite this, only a lone voice like that of Mujibur Rahman emerged to speak out and take some action. The rest remained silent. shielding this scandal. In the absence of parliamentary authority, as a proud citizen of Sri Lanka, I see the expulsion of Diana Gamage, the deceitful British woman from Parliament, as a triumph for the Sri Lankan people.
During
the 2022 budget debate, when the President visited Parliament, I presented certain documents and boldly stated that she isn't a Sri Lankan citizen. However, on that very day, as I addressed the Parliament, the President countered by asserting that allegiance to the party issuing a red passport supersedes all. This shielded those who should be held accountable. Furthermore, she had benefited from the taxpayers' money for nearly 3.5 years. This financial support must cease. Additionally, she deceitfully took an oath as a minister, falsely representing herself as a Sri Lankan citizen, thereby accessing taxpayer funds and enjoying the privileges of a minister. We intend to pursue legal recourse in the future.
The Sri Lankan Parliament also commented on Diana Gamage.
The Supreme Court delivered a verdict on Diana Gamage. Those who were hiding from the courts fled with Gotabaya, therefore remained silent. The Supreme Court has ruled the National List MP from their end is no longer eligible to be a member of Parliament. The SJB is responsible for this. They should have done a background check before naming and appointing an MP. There is no blame on the government. The opposition disregarded their responsibilities. We won't contest the Supreme Court's decision, but there's an issue. She lacks citizenship, which undermines the party's legitimacy. She's been the force behind registering and rallying MPs, yet her citizenship status throws a wrench in the works. It raises doubts about the legality of the party, the Samagi Jana Balawegya. She initiated the party formation, registered it, but without citizenship, her actions are in question. A non-citizen can't legally establish a party here. Whether she proceeded to sign the nominations is uncertain. But if that is the case, MP Sathanayaka needs to reconsider. Many MPs are understandably concerned about this.
කෑම කන තැනත් කතා කරලා හුඟක් කලබල වෙලා ඉන්නේ.
ඉස්සත් නායකතුමා. මොත් එක මාරු කරලා හදලා තියෙන්නේ. දැන් ඒක නිසා ඒක කොහොමත් අදාළ වෙන්නේ නැහැ.
මම ඔබතුමාට උදව්වක් කරන්නේ මොකද අපි මෙතන තර්ක කරලා වැඩක් නැහැ. ඔබතුමාලා කිව්වට හරමයි කරේ මෙහෙමයි කරේ කියලා මොකද?
I did you a favor because it is useless for us to argue here, even though you say various things. The matter is now with the courts. So when the matter is taken up in the court, you will have to declare that the party was registered by a non-citizen. Then the manner in which the nominations were signed will be scrutinized. You must be prepared for that. There may be some sort of accord between Ranjit Madhuma Bandara and Diana Gamage. I believe it is wise for you to select a wise legal panel. Do not seek legal advice from counsel who crossed over to your side from our end. If you do so, I do not know where you will end up.
ගන්න එපා උපදේශ. ඒක ගත්තොත් ඔබතුමන්ලට මන් දන්නේ නැහැ කොහෙටද යන්න වෙන්නේ කියලා. කරුණාකරලා බලන්න මේ ව්‍යවස්ථාව අරගෙන පක්ෂක ලේකම්වරයෙක් ද්විත්ව පුරවැසිභාවය පිළිබඳ යාට ප්‍රශ්නයක් එන්නේ නැහැ. ලංකාවේ ප්‍රශ්නේ තියෙන්නේ ජනාධිපති හෝ අගමැති හෝ නැත්නම් മന്ത്രിවරයෙක් සම්බන්ධ පමණයි ද්විත්ව පුරවැසිභාවයෙන්.
ගාලිබවුසරය තමන්ගේ മന്ത്രി ධූරය අහෝසි කරගෙන අධිකරණ තීන්දුවත් එක්ක ගෙදර යනවා.
Instead of the Gali Bowser, a battle tank will come to Parliament soon to represent the Samagi Jana Balawegya. That battle tank is Mujibur Rahman. It was she who nominated us. Therefore, if she is termed ineligible, our parliamentary positions are also lost. We see that they are trying to build an argument for such a concept. So I would like to say that from February 2020, Ranjit Madhuma Bandara was the General Secretary of the Samagi Jana Balawegya, while Sajit Premadas is the leader of Samagi Jana Balawegya. Then for the 2020 parliamentary election, the nominations were given in March 2020 by the General Secretary named Ranjit Madhuma Bandara that we get nominations and we signed the nominations. A petition was filed in the Supreme Court at that time to cancel these nomination papers led by the leadership of Ranil Wickremesinghe and the United National Party. But the Supreme Court rejected that petition and declared that this nomination is legitimate and gave a decision at that time. A complaint was also submitted to the Election Commission at that time. At that time, the Election Commission accepted that this was a duly submitted nomination paper, so there is no obstacle for the MPs. Diana Gamage had no responsibility as General Secretary, and that affirmed by the Supreme Court and the Election Commission. We would like to remind you that since 2020, we have not paid membership fees to the United National Party. We have paid our membership fees to Samagi Jana Balawegya.
සමග ජන බලවේගයට කියන එකත් මේ අවස්ථාවේදී අපි කියන්නට ඕනේ.
Diana Gamageta පෞගේ කාලේ pilot කෙනෙක් විදිහට තමයි එයා.
Diana Gamage was given the controls of the flight and she acted as the pilot. If the parliament is considered as a flight, we the MPs are the pilots. So a pilot must possess certain qualifications. But this flight was given to a person with no qualifications and that person conducted herself in a very deceitful manner. The people were purposely misled. She should be considered as a special case over the termination of her role as an MP. She misled the courts while remaining as a British national. We cannot be satisfied with removing her from this house. She knew that she was not a citizen of this country, yet she deceptively remained as a member of parliament. Diana Gamage has committed a serious crime.
Diana Gamage දරුණු අපරාධයක් කරලා තිබෙන්නේ.
Chief organizer of the Samagi Vanitha Balawege, Hirunika Premachandra, says that the parliamentary seat of Diana Gamage that remains vacant must be awarded to Mujibur Rahman.
I personally think Mujibur Rahman must be appointed to the vacant parliamentary seat. He has made an immense commitment. He put aside his parliamentary seat to contest the local government election. We lost a powerful voice in the parliament. I believe it would be better if he gets the seat.
The Court of Appeal convened today to consider the appeal filed against Hirunika Premachandra, who stands accused of contempt of court. The petitioner alleges that Premachandra's statement to the media regarding the granting of bail to an accused individual in a pending case at the Mount Lavinia Magistrates Court amounted to interference in the judicial process and insulted the court. The proceedings were presided over by Justices B. Sashi Mahendran and Nissanka Bandula Karunaratna. Justice Mahendran, presiding over the case, noted that the allegations levelled against Premachandra by the plaintiff had not been conclusively proven by the evidence presented. The justice also pointed out that the plaintiff has not been able to establish that Hirunika Premachandra, a former member of parliament and a political activist, had made the contested statement in a public setting and failed to confirm the accuracy of the facts she presented in relation to the case. The case will be revisited on the 14th of June to ascertain the veracity of the allegations against Hirunika Premachandra. The Colombo District Court today ordered to extend the injunction issued to prevent the removal of Mahinda Amaravira, Lasanthalage Wanna and Duminda Disanayaka from their positions in the Sri Lanka Freedom Party until the 15th of May. The lawyers who represented the respondents requested the court to let them present their objections when the complaint was filed up in court today. Accordingly, the court issued an order for objections to be filed, if any, and for the case to be called up once again on the 15th of May.
Sri Lanka Podu Jana Peramuni Electoral Organizers and party activists were summoned to the SLPP headquarters in Battaramulla.
The discussion at the Sri Lanka Podu Jana Peramuni headquarters in Nelummawatha, Battaramulla was chaired by SLPP leader Mahinda Rajapaksa, founder Basil Rajapaksa and national organizer Namal Rajapaksa. During the meeting, the electoral organizers were informed about the inauguration of an election operations centre and upcoming election activities.
Even though a presidential election comes, our Pradesh Sabha members and those who rep the Port Tour, they will continue to work regardless of the election. That's why we are involved in politics with them. We are working to strengthen the candidate. We are prepared to face any upcoming election within the democratic framework.
වෙලාවට මොකදරි ඕගොල්ලන්ට තියෙන හදිස්සිය ජනතාව වෙලාවට ගානට ඒගොල්ලෝ තෝරලා බෙරලා හදිගස්සලා දෙයි එක්කෙනෙක් අපිට ඉතින් දන්නවා අපි කියන්නේ නැහැ
අපේ පක්ෂේ නායකයා මහින්ද රාජපක්ෂ ජනාධිපතිතුමාට අපි හැමෝම බලය දීලා තියෙනවා එතුමා කියයි නියමිත වෙලාවට කායකද ජනාධිපතිවරණේ අපි ලෑස්ති වෙන්න කියලා.
Parliamentarian Dasiri Jayasekara raised concerns in Parliament over a presidential hopeful.
The large amount of revenue is brought into the country through the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation by distributing jet fuel, especially from the Katunayaka and Mattala airports. A high-tech system was newly built at the Katunayaka airport for this purpose, and the expense of that project is $51 million. Even when such a system exists, assessments and surveys are underway with regards to companies named Canal and Fitz Aviation to install a new oil distribution system. In addition, a land slot from the airport has been given to a businessman who also happens to be a parliamentarian for him to carry out his business. This individual is not just an official. We are talking about a member of parliament.
පාර්ලිමේන්තු මන්ත්‍රී මහත්තයෙක්. නිලධාරී නෙමෙයි මන්ත්‍රී මහත්තයා. බිස්නස් කර මන්ත්‍රී මහත්තුරු ඉන්නවනේ මේක ඇතුලේ. ඒ කට්ටිය. එතකොට ආණ්ඩුවේ නම ඉතින් ඔබතුමාලා දන්නවනේ.
පාඩායකතුමා නම අහනවා.
මහත්තයා ඔබතුමාලගේ මේ ජනාධිපති අපේක්ෂක.
කවුද නාමල්ද?
මන් දන්නේ නැහැ. එහෙම තමයි කියන්නේ. හරි මම එහෙම කියන්නම්. හින්ට් එකක් නෝනේ.
සීලම මන්ත්‍රීවරුන්ගේ අයිතිකාරකම් වෙනුව මමටත් පෙනින්න වෙනවනේ සභානායකවරයා හැටියට. මම ඔබතුමාගෙන් අහන්න කැමතියි ජාතික ලයිස්තුවෙන් ආව මන්ත්‍රීවරයෙක්ද? ව්‍යාපාරිකයෙක්ද?
ඔව්.
ජනාධිපති අපේක්ෂකකමේ තාමත් ඉන්නවද?
මෙහෙමයි. ඔබතුමාලගේ පක්ෂයෙන් කියනවා අකුරු 3ක නමක් තමයි ජනාධිපති අපේක්ෂක කියලා.
ඔව්.
සුසිල් කියලා තාම කියලා නැහැ. මට ඒකයි තියෙන ප්‍රශ්නේ.
මගේ නම කිව්වා කියන්න හේතුවක් නැහැනේ.
ජාතික ලයිස්තුවෙන් නාමල්
මම ව්‍යාපාරිකයෙකුත් නෙවෙයි. මම ඊයේ පෙරේද ආපු කෙනෙකුත් නෙවෙයි ජාතික ලයිස්තුවෙන් කවදාවත් ඇවිල්ලා නැහැ.
ඒක අදාළ නෙවෙයි.
මට අදාළ වෙන්නේ නැහැ.
අදාළ නෙවෙයි ඔබතුමා ඉඳගන්න. දැන් මෙච්චර ලාභ ලබන ව්‍යාපෘතියක් මේ තෙල් සංස්ථාව ශක්තිමත්ව ගොඩනගන්න තියෙන අවස්ථාවක ඒක පැත්තකට විසි කළා. ඔබතුමාලා මේ වගේ කම්පැනි වලට මේක දීලා ඉවර කරන්නද මේ හදන්නේ කියන එක මගේ පළවෙනි ප්‍රශ්නේ.
මම හිතන්නේ ඔබතුමා ඉඩම් පිළිබඳව ඔබතුමා ගුවන් සේවා අමාත්‍යතුමාගෙන් තමයි විමසන්න ඕන. මොකද ගුවන් තොටුපොළේ ඉඩම් ලබා දීම සඳහා අපිට පෙට්‍රෝලියම් එකෙන් කරන්න බෑ.
Sri Lankan President Ranil Wickremesinghe said that the task to stabilise the economy is nearing an end and focus should shift on to the next step. He made these remarks while addressing the inaugural session of the Sri Lanka Climate Summit, which commenced yesterday at the Shangri-La, Colombo.
My task as President had been to restore the economy, or in other words, to stabilise the economy. That task is nearing an end, and we have to now focus on the next step. We can't carry on with this economic model, which certainly hasn't worked, and we have, as I mentioned many times before, transformed ourselves into an export-oriented economy and a highly competitive economy. This purpose, the government will be introducing legislation in Parliament which will ensure that all government policies focus on the transformation to a highly competitive export-oriented economy. In fact, the bill most probably will be gazetted next week, but I'm not going to deal at length with the bill except to say that one of the items in the bill in carrying out this transformation is to ensure that we achieve net zero by 2050. And I can tell you we will achieve it before that. Sri Lanka can do it. So in making our policies, which are going to affect all of you, not in a transformation of an economy to export orientation, but into an economy that is based on achieving net zero. So that's how we are going to work this out. As it is, the first step is we are already drafting a new law which will deal with the environment and climate change. In some countries, we have different acts dealing with the laws, but we decided that we will bring it together, one law which will handle both environment and climate change. We retain the Central Environment Authority, but we'll also bring in the Climate Change Center. On the process of drafting, I've asked the officials now, in doing so, let's far as possible follow the Climate Change Act of UK, which I think is a good one, and it puts the burden on the government and the minister to act on the advice of the Climate Change Committees and to table the regulations in Parliament. One reason for following the Climate Change Act of UK, because that's one that has been accepted well by the financial circles. So we will ensure that our green financing, the different options available, are certainly based on the same practices as UK. The rest is how do we get these instruments together? What do we do? Well, that's where I think the Chamber of Commerce, the Stock Exchange, our investment ministry all come together.
The inaugural Sri Lankan Climate Change Conference hosted by the Sri Lanka Chamber of Commerce commenced yesterday under the theme Climate Action for Our Nation and the Planet. Scheduled to run until the 9th of May, the summit aims to foster a comprehensive understanding of multifaceted climate crisis, both from a global and national standpoint.
A discussion took place in Parliament today regarding cabinet approval being granted for the purchase of power from wind power plants in Mannar and Punring being built by India's Adani Green Energy Company. And the first question regarding the price per unit energy was raised by Parliamentarian Kabir Hashim.
An unsolicited proposal is going to be signed for 8 cents. The CEB has called for an international tender for 50 megawatts of wind power. There are a few international companies waiting to propose the same amount as the Adani company. We said that the value could be less than 7 cents USD. However, yesterday we heard that the cabinet has decided to give this to the Adani company for 8.8 cents USD. Our country's Power and Energy Act states 3 methods of purchasing power. This agreement has followed through one of these 3 methods and has been presented before the cabinet as a government-to-government or G-to-G proposal even before I was appointed. This matter was discussed to 6 months and a rate of 8.26 cents USD was agreed upon. For 24.78 rupees diesel, we have to pay about 80 rupees. For coal, we spend about 25 to 26 rupees. For hydropower, the value is even lesser. Is it unprofitable for us to generate 50 megawatts of renewable energy? We endure a cost of USD 8.47 per unit energy in the wind power plant in Manna that is operational even as of now. Power is being purchased at 8.26 USD. We already pay 37 rupees per unit to anyone who adds to the national grid from solar cells on their roofs. The value of 24.78 rupees is lesser than both 37 rupees and 33 rupees. Is it a loss then? The Adani company, which sells wind power in India for 4 cents rupees, will sell it to us at 8 cents rupees. They might keep saying that there is a cost of capital, but as of now, there is a downward risk. The decision taken by the cabinet yesterday is wrong. If we usually purchase power at 39 rupees from 500 megawatts of power generated from fuel at 55 to 60 rupees per unit, how is it a loss if we purchase the same amount at 24 rupees per unit? These investors take a huge risk. There is a formula that is used here. They use this formula for negotiations and then present their proposals. This is not even relevant to me. However, these cents are in USD, not rupees. Therefore, I thought that saving this amount of money is beneficial for the country. Our party believes that this value should be reduced. Also, this is unsolicited. It began as an unsolicited government-to-government agreement. They should have issued an international tender. Instead, they held government-to-government discussions. There was 1 more week for the price to be decided. My question is, why couldn't the government wait for that 1 week? Why was this presented to the cabinet yesterday? What is this all about?
These are the responses of the Minister of Foreign Affairs and State Minister of Foreign Affairs at 2 separate events today.
We have decided to file a cabinet paper in collaboration with Minister Harin Fernando. We have appointed a separate committee for this. We must forget that small amount charged for visa and work on attracting more tourists to the country. We keep insisting that visa must be issued free of charge for at least 50 countries. The committee will look into that matter. This was discussed at length at the cabinet recently. As a result, we have limited the value to $50. All fees must be charged within that $50. We must make sure that the value does not go above that. We must see if we need a third party if visa is issued for free of charge to 60 countries. I do not see proper management during the transition from the previous system to the new one. In addition, a commission of 25% is also being charged by them. I believe this is totally unnecessary. What we should take into account is not increase in the revenue of the Department of Immigration and Immigration. We must focus on issuing visa and attracting more tourists to the country. Sri Lanka has the highest rate when comparing with that of other countries. If a family of 4 or 5 visits the country, they will have to allocate about $500 for visa alone. It would be more advantageous for them to just visit another country and spend a better vacation there.
A recent topic of extensive discussion revolves around the potential involvement of a foreign company in certain aspects of the visa issuance process for foreigners. Today, Member of Parliament Nalin Bandara shed light on this matter during parliamentary proceedings.
මහජන ආරක්ෂක අමාත්‍යාංශයේ අතිරේක ලේකම්වරියක් වන TVD දමයන්තිස් කරුණාරත්න මැතිණිය ඇතුළු පිරිසක්
A group including Additional Secretary to the Ministry of Public Security TVD Damayanti had presented a report including the reasons for VFS Global to be chosen to assess the visa issuance process. The cabinet has granted approval for a 10-year agreement to be inked with VFS Global. We saw Harin Fernando continuously criticize this. Does this mean Harin was not in the cabinet when approval was granted, or was he asleep? It is estimated that 5.4 million tourists would visit Sri Lanka by 2035. VFS Global has been granted this opportunity so that it earns a mammoth profit of $841 by then. Mobitel was ready to charge only $1 for this same online service. If a payment of $18.50 is made for a service that can be fulfilled for $1, they are definitely pocketing more than $15. This is going to result in a scam 25 times larger in magnitude than the central bank bond scam. This government will last only 3 to 4 months more anyway. Only 4 months more until the funeral. Are they gathering this wealth for the afterlife?
නියෝජ්‍ය කතා නායකතුමා. ඒතර මේගොල්ලෝ මේ පරලොවටද මේ කරගෙන තියෙන්නේ.
The president of the India Foundation, Dr. Ram Madhav, asserted that the region is getting overcrowded with multiple regional bodies. He was speaking annual Bay of Bengal Maritime Dialogue in Colombo.
We have SAARC, we have ASEAN, we have some countries which are members of Shanghai Cooperation Organization. India is in BRICS. There is Asia Pacific Economic Council. There is ASEAN. There is African Union. There is Arab League. There is East African Federation. There is IORA. There is Indian Ocean Commission, older than IORA. Now recently there is Quad. There is ASEP. This space is overcrowded. I am not saying BIMSTEC has no relevance. No. For that matter, I would say any 3 countries, 4 countries coming together and forming a small group will have relevance. They will have something to do together. But if BIMSTEC were to really become a significant force in the region, BIMSTEC can become an important regional or sub-regional player in the happening Indian Ocean region. First, as I said, it should now restructure itself as a sub-regional mini-lateral grouping, supplementing the regional agendas. See, for the lead country India, there is a huge regional agenda with respect to the Indian Ocean region and, of course, by extension, Indo-Pacific. BIMSTEC's agenda should very seamlessly converge into that regional agenda of lead country or of the region. I consider Indian Ocean region as a natural region. Indo-Pacific is a political construct. In Indo-Pacific, Indian Ocean is an ocean. Pacific is an ocean, no doubt. But there is no real convergence except geopolitical and geostrategic convergence. Indian Ocean by itself is a natural region, a region of culture, a region of civilization that links all the countries in the region. So BIMSTEC should also benefit from that Indian Ocean regional natural relationship.
Foreign Minister Ali Sabri announced today that the Iranian government has conveyed its interest in establishing direct air connectivity between Iran and Sri Lanka.
In the meantime, it's important for us to invite other investors to come. So it is in that context we had a very successful visit of the Iranian president to Sri Lanka. We managed to open the Umayyah. Umayyah is now contributing 120 megawatts. We now have the news that the Mahanya, that is the Iranian airline, wants to visit Sri Lanka. So with that, we would expect more tourists come from that region. And last week, as you know, the Japanese foreign minister visited Sri Lanka. The Japanese foreign minister's visit was to give the moral support and understanding to approve the economic reforms that we are undertaking. Japan officially encourage and press the bold economic reforms that Sri Lankan government is undertaking. And she said the moment we sign the MOU with the official creditor committee, Japan will restart the now stalled project which are ongoing at the time of the default. So that's a very good news.
The former CEO of NMRA was arrested this evening.
Dr. Vijit Gunasekara, the former Chief Executive Officer of the National Medicines Regulatory Authority, was arrested by the Criminal Investigation Department. The arrest comes in the context of an ongoing investigation into alleged fraudulent practices related to the provision of a counterfeit solution purported to be human immunoglobulin to patients. Earlier today, Vijit Gunasekara appeared at the CID headquarters to provide a statement regarding this matter. The process of recording his statements extended for more than 8 hours. Subsequently, the police made the decision to arrest him.
Newsfirst with the people.
Additional Solicitor General Dilan Ratnayake has been appointed as a President's Counsel.
Additional Solicitor General Dilan Ratnayake of the Attorney General's Department was conferred silk and appointed as a President's Counsel earlier this morning. President's Counsel Dilan Ratnayake was invited to take his seat in the inner bar by His Lordship Chief Justice Jayanta Jayasuriya at the ceremonial sitting held in the Supreme Court. President's Counsel Dilan Ratnayake has served in the Attorney General's Department for the last 27 years.
In more news, Litro Gas opened a brand new terminal in Mabima today.
The terminal in Mabima was inaugurated under the auspices of Chief of Staff to the President Sagala Ratnayake. This new terminal, built with a 1 billion rupee investment, has the capacity to distribute 60,000 gas cylinders per day.
We have made a significant progress on the economic front. We have achieved a primary surplus. The rupee is strengthening steadily and inflation has dropped from 76% to 3%. The economy is now stabilizing. This progress is the result of the past 2 years of implementing essential laws and regulations. We will continue these efforts with additional legislation. We have already introduced an internationally recognized anti-corruption bill, and in the future we will introduce a crisis of crime bill that allows for the extradition of criminals caught abroad. Despite the upcoming election, our focus remains on rebuilding the country. The President is not campaigning. He is dedicated to economic recovery.
Sri Lanka's export community, represented by various chambers and associations, held a joint press conference to address critical issues hindering the country's export potential.
A joint press conference was held in Colombo yesterday by the National Chamber of Exporters of Sri Lanka in coordination with Colombo's other leading chambers and associations. The conference highlighted the challenges in accessing global markets and overcoming regulatory hurdles. President of the NCE, Jayanta Karnaratne, stressed on the pressing issues faced by the chamber's members.
Exports, especially the merchandise exports, are stagnant or maybe sometimes declining. If you look at last 20 years, we have been maintaining almost the same levels. So the economy or GDP has grown, but the exports have come down. The main reason we at the NCE finds is that we have inconsistent policies. From each government to government, they keep changing policies. The ministers keep changing policies. One of the main reasons why the investors or industries or exporters cannot plan for the future.
Secretary General of JAF, Johan Lawrence, highlighted on factors that could hinder future export potential.
Continued requirement for mandatory conversion of export proceeds into LKR. This requirement was brought in 2021 at the height of the foreign exchange crisis when Sri Lanka's foreign reserves were at dangerously low levels. This policy has been in place now for over 2 years, and the market situation that existed then has vastly improved. Our point, therefore, is that in this background, there is no requirement for the mandatory conversion to continue any further. Our call out is that the impact of this higher value of the Sri Lanka rupee will be seen not now, but in the next 8 to 9 months, because that is the lead time. And at that time, we'll all wonder why that was. And the reason is the artificially high Sri Lanka rupee.
Tharu Villas, a collection of luxury properties, marked a new chapter with its official rebranding as NYNE Hotels.
Nayanthara Fonseca, but most famously known as Tharu, brings her passion for interior design into life with her collection of villas and hotels across the island. However, after a successful journey with her previous brand, she and her team have embarked on a new chapter with 9.
The evening served as a celebration of Fonseca's vision and dedication. In a heartfelt speech, she delved into her 22-year journey of building the brand to its current standing, while she also expressed her deepest gratitude to her loved ones for their unwavering support throughout the years.
Why 9? There were many names that my brand advisors came up with. Beautiful, meaningful names, but they really didn't touch my soul. One day I heard in my heart, 9, the name my late daddy, Lester Fonseca, fondly called me. And so here it is, 9 hotels. 9 will be the new Tharu. 9 represents a fresh start, a new beginning, and a commitment to redefining the guest experience in ways that are both impressive and unforgettable. 9 Hotels will be a brand that focuses on providing a holistic sensory experience for its guests.
9 Hotels, a name conceptualized from the nickname her father called her by, represents a strategic repositioning for their properties, signifying Fonseca's direct involvement in their management and operations.
Industry really needs people like her fronting it, and providing the framework for what we should strive to be as a great tourism destination, and I think she's got all the components for it.
The funny thing is, I ask her this question every time, like, what next? Every time you create a property, it seems to be better than the other. So what would you say is your finest? But I think her first love is still Rock Villa.
The one thing that always struck me about is not only that she started with an ambition to be the best, but she sustained it. As she said this evening, it's been 22 years. It's a very rare thing in this country where you have people like that who start something and then are not only able to keep it going, but even make it better.
She's a perfectionist, and I had never been to any boutique hotel or any hotel in Sri Lanka which offers the service they offer. I mean, it's only good, better, and marvelous. I'm very happy.
I'm so proud of her for what she's achieved. I never doubted her for a minute because she is one of the most talented people that I know. And I look up to her as inspiration for my own life.
The concept of 9 strives to engage not just the traditional senses, but all 9 senses, where the minds behind this creation believe that there is more to experience and appreciate beyond what meets the eye.
Day 8 of the third phase of the LOLC DAVIA program, which is being carried out for the betterment of Sri Lanka's future generation, got underway today as well.
Under the DAVIA program, exercise books and stationery equipment required for 1 year are distributed free of charge to government schools with less than 150 students. Today's program was carried out centering the Matale Education Zone in the Matale district. Accordingly, school books and stationery equipment were distributed among students of the Kottegoda Muslim Vidyalaya, Mahalevakanda Tamil Vidyalaya, Kohalanwala Primary School, D.M. Gunaratna Vidyalaya, Nandana Vidyalaya and the Salagama Tamil Vidyalaya. The LOLC DAVIA program continues to forge ahead for the future generation of Sri Lanka.
Adult film actor Stormy Daniels took the witness stand at Donald Trump's New York criminal trial. testifying under oath about the sexual encounter she says she had with him in 2006 and the $130,000 deal for her silence that was struck during the closing days of the 2016 presidential campaign.
In a remarkable day of testimony with the former president sitting roughly 10 feet away from her, Daniels recounted the tryst in detail. She talked about Trump's supposed efforts to get her on his TV show and her decision to come forward with her story, as well as the payoff and the fallout from doing so. During cross-examination, which at times became heated, Daniels tangled with one of Trump's attorneys, Susan Nichols, who accused her of making up a series of false claims to extort Trump, then a presidential candidate. Trump's lawyers also argued that some of Daniels' account of the 2006 encounter, quote-unquote, was unduly and inappropriately prejudicial. They then requested a mistrial. Trump's lawyer Todd Blanche told the judge that Daniels' unfair claims included her testimony that Trump didn't use protection and that she thinks she blacked out for a part of it.
In a development to a story we aired on Newsfirst earlier, following a retired Major General and a retired Sergeant Major were arrested this evening by the CID. The detectives made the arrests in Kurunegala and the duo were nabbed for their alleged involvement in trafficking Sri Lankans overseas by promising jobs in Russia.
And with that, we'll wrap up Primetime News for tonight. Thank you for watching. Good night.